Since before the first contact with European settlers, tribal nations have existed as sovereign nations. Humanity in itself gives them inherent right to establish their own government, policies, and procedures for their nation. Outsiders who come onto native lands must respect and abide by the customary practices and laws that have been established by the tribe. With more than 500 federally recognized tribal nations, each with their own customs, practices, and beliefs, how can an outsider find out what they need to know before they visit a tribal community? In an effort to expand understanding, we interviewed Native people from across the country to hear what they wish people knew before they came onto tribal lands to engage the tribe and conduct business. Let's listen to what they had to say.
Tnake niya ru ye isware ye katabare ye kampisawachahere ye migrare. Yeah, so my name is Rue George Warren. I'm a citizen of Catawba Nation. We're a federally recognized tribe in the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. And I've done a lot of work for my tribe in different capacities, but right now I'm working as an elected official for the tribe. I would never expect anyone to come onto Catawba Nation knowing everything about us. If they did, I would find it a little bit weird, and I love telling people about our culture and who we are and our history. And it's so fun. And it's the most fun. It's the most rewarding when people are coming with an inquisitive and open heart and mind to it towards this spirit of collaboration. Like you said, relationships. What I always tell people is, we've been here for 6,000 years at least. We plan on being here for another 6,000 years at least. So if y'all also want to be here for a long time, let's figure out how we can work and live together, because that's the only way forward.
I'm Charla Miller, and I'm a citizen of Cherokee Nation. Prior to coming to the Children's Bureau, I spent 20 years of service with my tribe, the Cherokee Nation, in service to children and families that were in need of reunification and protection services. Don't assume you are automatically accepted into their agency. Don't expect they have your trust immediately. You need to build that relationship. Even as myself, as a tribal citizen with many years of experience working for a tribe, I do know that when I became part of the Children's Bureau and I was assigned different tribes, that my history got me a knock on the door, but I still had to build that relationship and trust.
My name is Shanley Karak. I come from Akichek, Alaska, and my Yupik name is Alakak. That we live off the land, because that's really important to us. From where I come from, the store is expensive, the gas prices are expensive, so we live off the land, like hunting moose, going berry picking, and fishing also.
I come from the native village of Eek. My village is right at the mouth of the Kuskokwim River, and we have only 290 people that live there. My advice to visitors would be, to be cognizant of the timing like subsistence gathering, funerals, and also being sensitive to our way of life, because our time is precious, and we do have times that we don't have the time to sit down with somebody just to talk. We have things to do because we're a preparing people. We prepare for the winter. We're always preparing for the winter. And so, during times of gathering, it's very important to our people.
My name is Bertha Brown. My friends and relatives call me Birdie. I'm from the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, Lame Deer, Montana, which is in the southeast corner of Montana. I'm also Northern Cheyenne on my mother's side, and my father is Northern Arapaho. The number one is that anyone who's non-Cheyenne, non-native, when they come to Northern Cheyenne territory, they need to know that their rights are different when they enter our reservation homelands there. That's the number one thing.
My name is Angela Connor. I am a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma and also Chickasaw. Previously, I've worked for the past 20 years for tribes in Oklahoma, and this past year, I joined the Children's Bureau as a Child and Family Services Program Specialist. It's very important when you work for the Children's Bureau or any government agency that you do your research and your homework before you go out and visit a tribe. They are all have a lot of similarities, but there are a lot of different unique things about a tribe. So you need to not go in with misperceptions. Example I can give is that one time when I was working for a tribe, a government person came in and wanted to go on a tour of our community and asked me, "Where are your teepees?" And my tribe never lived in teepees. They were more a type of a hut, but that was many, many, many moons ago. And so that really did not sit well with our community, especially our elders.
Hello, everyone. My name is Norma Jean Salas. I am a traditional elder from the Penobscot Nation here in Maine, and I have the pleasure of working for the Mi'kmaq Nation in their child welfare department, and currently organizing and creating the tribal court. So we're excited about that. And I live on Tobic First Nation, which is in New Brunswick, which is one of the Maliseet bands in the Maritimes. And I think it's really important for people that are coming to understand that it's not just the Mi'kmaq Nation or just the Penobscot Nation or just the Passamaquoddies, that we are all together. And in our looking at the world, there is no national border between Maine and New Brunswick or Maine and Quebec and the Maritimes, that we are still all that people. So in particular for the Mi'kmaq Nation, which I work at in the Child Welfare Department, this is the only Mi'kmaq Nation that is federally recognized in the United States. However, there are 29 other Mi'kmaq nations in Maritime and Quebec, and that's important to know.
Gawatsi, Dushinametui Maitza Eshe, Usha Chanushta, Koyawashta. Hello, my name is Donalyn Saraceno, and I am from the Pueblo of Acoma. I have a unique perspective on the questions being asked because I was a former director for a tribal social service agency, and I'm currently serving in the capacity of the director for the Office of Tribal Affairs with a state agency. And I think it's really important for state, federal, and other agencies to know about tribes before they go into doing business with any tribe, is that all nations, pueblos, and tribes are uniquely different. Agency workers should not assume the way they interact with one nation, pueblo, or tribe is going to be the same way that they're going to interact with another nation, pueblo, or tribe. And each nation, pueblo, and tribe should be engaged with in a manner that is respectful of each respective community. They should not force the way they do business with one tribe onto the way they're trying to do business with another tribe.
My name is Miranda Rojas. I'm a member of the Coeur d'Alene tribe on the reservation in Idaho, located in Plummer, Idaho. It's a beautiful res. I'm a caseworker as well for the Coeur d'Alene tribe. Respects go a long way. When you go onto somebody's reservation or reserve, you're on somebody else's tribe, you're on somebody else's territory. You don't want to go there disrespecting anybody. You want to go there with an open mind, an open heart, because a lot of Native people, when you come and you introduce yourself, we're very welcoming. We like to joke, we like to talk. If we tease you, that means we really like you. But just come with an open mind and always ask questions if you don't know. because that's the main point, because some people come and they don't know and they don't want to ask questions, but it's always best to ask questions.
Yeah, so my name is Christina Menard. I go by Chrissy. I'm with the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians, and I'm employed with ACFS, which is Anishinaabe Family and Community Services, as a family service specialist, specializing more so in ICWA. From my perspective, and my family as an elder has once taught me that, you know, anybody coming on, and she taught me this as I come on to people coming onto my reservation, or I'm going on to somebody else's reservation, that you need to go there with an open heart and respect, and be able to accept that some things that we do are not what they do, and we need to be respectful of that, and to, if we are unsure, to make sure that you ask questions to find out, you know, what their policies are, what they perceive as appropriate. And I think that that's a big for anybody coming onto our reservation, to be able to, even if you have to ask before you come on or while you're there, not to hesitate to ask questions and know what you can and cannot, or what you should and should not be doing.
My name is Melanie Rodriguez. My Tlingit name is Kuksani, which I received from my grandmother's. My late grandmother's name was given to me by my aunt just after my grandmother passed away, so it's special to me. My clan is Eagle Wolf, and my family originates from Southeast Alaska. Sitka and Cake. I was born and raised in Juneau, Alaska. I would appreciate if people reached out to us before they came and visited in person and got to know and asked, you know, what are your cultural norms? What are no's and yeses, and do we make eye contact? Do we not make eye contact? Because that's different at every tribe. Like, I'm not allowed to make eye contact with my elders, is an example, as a show of respect.
Yeah, we invite visitors, but in the same way, when you enter someone's home, you know, you're very respectful. And so that is the thing that is my wish for, always been my wish.
Something as small as the direction you walk around the fire, the order that people are fed in, you know, all of these things are just minute pieces of culture that I think we're taught to listen, to pay attention, and to try and suss out and not just assume when we're going into those situations.
If you don't know, ask. Don't go in unprepared. I think understanding a little bit about the tribe before you go in, so you can have some respectful conversation as you're setting the stage, and not just going in to bulldoze your way to do business with them.
Buju, Adriana Goodwin, Indigenous Cause, Washkuban Asikwe, Ninago, Maingan, Nindudem, Misquagamiwi, Zagai Gunning, Nindun Chaba. Greetings, my colonized name is Adriana Goodwin, and I am a citizen of the Red Lake Nation. I think that it's important for people who aren't from Indigenous communities, when they come to visit tribal homelands or reservation communities, that they take the time to educate themselves on some of the laws and community know-how that we as tribal people know, because we are the ones, you know, living in community. And so, you know, just a simple way that can be done is checking in with the tribal council to see if there are any licensure requirements for you to conduct business on tribal property.
So my name is Selena. I go by Stina Peak. I am a member of the Confederated Salish Kootenai tribes located on the Flathead Reservation, but I work for the Puyallup tribe as an Indian Child Welfare tribal liaison in courts outside the jurisdiction of tribal courts. I wish they knew about tribal sovereignty, understood policies, codes, because codes in WACs and RCWs are different. Some tribes have agencies like the Puyallup tribe. They are a licensing agency at Puyallup Tribe Children's Services, so they have to abide by some of the state WACs and RCWs, but also you have the tribes codes and laws, and placement preferences and child rearing practices. That's probably the most common.
You don't use all the acronyms that we take for granted in the Children's Bureau that we use, because those acronyms are comfortable in our atmosphere, our setting, in our office, but they aren't acronyms that are commonly used at all with tribes. And understand their hierarchy. They may have presidents, they may have governors, they may have principal chiefs, they may have directors or managers, and all of those have different meanings for each tribe in Pueblo. And so to not know those specific to the tribes that you're working with would be disrespectful to not have put some of that knowledge, up front to be able to address them in the manner in which they deserve.
There's also the consideration of jurisdictions. So some tribes are public law 280, some tribes are not public law 280. And so there might be different procedures when you're interacting with different tribal nations. Again, tribal nations have negotiated different treaties with the United States government, and those different treaties speaks to the unique sovereignty of each tribe. So just because one tribe does something one way, another tribe may do something totally different.
Our chief talks about maybe a decade ago when he went to DC to meet some of our representatives and senators when he was in a different position. And one of the representatives for our specific area of South Carolina had no idea that there was a federally recognized tribe in his congressional district. And that's something that I think we deal a lot with over here, is the erasure of us as a tribal nation, the existence of tribes still on the East Coast, because there's this really big narrative that we all disappeared or were all forced west. And for some tribes, that's true. They were forced west. And for our tribe, we were able to stay here, mostly because they thought we would die out. But we persevered.
It's important to recognize that Indigenous communities have a historical distrust with the federal government. This historical distrust with the federal government comes from the forced removal of Indigenous nations onto reservations, the boarding school era, which was the policy of removing children from Indian communities and placing them into residential facilities for them to learn different Western ways of knowing. And so as federal agencies, it's important to have that recognition of this historical distrust. And so in order for us to move past that distrust, we really need to start thinking about those interactions that we have with tribes and when you are coming onto tribal nations.
I do think that it's been kind of lopsided because for the most part, tribes have been forced to learn how to interact with the United States, representatives of the United States, whether it's in treaty making, like you said, or our children going to boarding schools, our ancestors going to boarding schools. So for the most part, tribes have had to learn the language of the federal government and, to a lesser extent, state governments and local governments. But the same requirement hasn't gone the other way, right?
I know when I was working for tribal and state government, like I would know when a Fed was here, or, make sure you dress nice for the federal people. But in reality, I feel like it should be the other way around. You're coming to us, and we should be comfortable with that. So I really hope that people make an effort to meet each tribe where they're at. Call them and prep with them before you come. Don't set the date. Work with them to set a date. Be very aware of their culture with as much as they want to share with you, because understanding the historical trauma, we don't know where each tribe is with their healing. So it really is important to build that trust and knowledge to be able to come together in a good way. So I really hope it helps to learn. Look up their website and learn about their culture before you have a meeting with them, and be curious. Come curiously and say, tell me more about that, and just be open-minded about, this is a different way of life. There are communities that don't have running water. There are communities that don't have electricity. They don't have internet service.
So there's a lot of different things as far as like culture practices. They don't understand like coastal tribes are different than plains tribes that are different than Easter tribes, and like the different like Siawan, Shaker, Sundance, Jump Dance. So all these tribes have different cultures.
When you're preparing for a certain population, you might be safe to ask, are there any things that would be, if you do not find it in your research, but when you research for the area, the population that you're providing to, and do not think that that is something that one size, one way fits all. But ask them, are there any things, or look for in your research, colors that are offensive to them, reptiles, animals, birds, prey that are offensive to them, or things that are soothing and comfortable that would engage them that you might want to use. And for example, I know that owls in the eastern part in Oklahoma, most all tribes, owls are a sign of death, and they represent something coming and imminent as far as death.
My name is Francis Kakolda. With the University of Washington School of Social Work, an organization called the Alliance, and we're the trainers for state staff and caregivers, and we also work with and train our tribes as well too. One of the big things that we train on here in the Alliance is saying, make contact first. Don't just enter into reservation land on tribal land without their permission. And one of the many things we talk about here with the Alliance is really trying to hold down and honor the tribal sovereignty that we must all respect when entering onto tribal land.
Okay.
So making sure you have that permission, try to build up that relationship, trying to understand that it's a government-to-government relationship with the state and then with the tribes as well too.
So that's really important to understand, that if there's a death in the community, that things will stop. And that goes for all the Wabanaki tribes here in Maine.
And also when you're talking to our people, you don't try to make eye contact with us, because that makes us nervous and it invades our space. And to pause and wait for an answer, because our people are careful in answering, because we want the words that come out of our mouth to be truthful and important. When we're asked important things, we don't just blurt out things. We think, we have a thinking process, and we're trained to be able to say, if something's coming out of our mouth, that it's not going to hurt anybody.
We take our culture seriously, and if you went to my village, you would probably say, wow, these people are they have serious faces on their faces.
My name is Carlette Randall. I am a member of the Gulalala Lakota tribe on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And my tribe is very, very, it's very informal, but I think business casual would be how you would dress if you go and visit my tribe. A lot of tribal members in tribal government will be in business casual or blue jeans. It's very casual. No one dresses very formal. The other thing, that when you're conducting business with my tribe, the culture there is to greet. When you are greeted, it's usually with a handshake, and it's not a firm handshake. It's just kind of lightly touching the hand, and they won't look you in the eye, because in our culture, we don't look people in the eye. And that sometimes makes people uncomfortable, because they feel like they're not being paid attention to or being seen or heard, but it's a respectful thing not to look someone in the eye. So just to be aware of that. Most of the time, The agenda, anything that you have coming there that you're used to doing and conducting business is going to be different. Time and how you should go about doing business may not be as important to them, and they may do things when they feel like it is the right time. So your agenda may change, your time may change. When you start, you don't actually start on time, but it's when it is the right time is how our culture operates.
You know, my father would always say, you should shake hands with a firm handshake. Well, that's not so in Native communities, or not in my tribe anyway. With the elders or anyone, we do a soft handshake. And so I noticed that that was something very different when the elders would shake hands with me, and it would be very light to touch.
Should elder or other people be walking around, it's okay to say, well, hello, hope you're enjoying your day. That's what we do with each other, just to say that I know that your spirit is sharing the same very place on this earth at this moment in time, and I'm going to acknowledge that in some way. And we do offer opportunity for our elders. You know, they are the superstars of our community. They talk first, they eat first, they do, everything first. And that's really important.
Also, come with something to give. Not saying anything of value, but know that you're showing up to serve. Even if it's something as simple as serving the elders when we have a meal together. Elders generally get served first. So it's nice to see people just getting up and making a plate for an elder and just bringing it to them without having to ask.
Food is very important to Native culture. And if you're asked to share a meal, that's very sincere and very important. And it's viewed as disrespectful oftentimes if you decline to do so. So, I would just caution you to try to take that time and opportunity to spend that time with them during a meal, because not everyone's asked to share a meal.
The other important thing to know is that your time frames and your way of doing business is not going to be their way. So if you want true collaboration and meaningful engagement, you cannot impose your process onto their process or the way they're used to doing business. So being mindful of when you set meetings so that it doesn't interfere with cultural activities that are going on, like cultural feast days or celebrations, other traditional activities. Be really mindful of that.
I think even learning each culture, it'll take a lifetime to learn the differences between all the 574 tribes in the U.S. Some are patriarchal, some are matriarchal, different clan systems, different societies, different cultural norms. Just being aware of that takes your work the next step. And next level of understanding and promoting healing for tribes.
I think a great step for most anyone is to actively search out Native voices, whether that's, if you're a big music listener, there's some amazing Native musicians out there. If you love fiction, there's amazing Native fiction writers. There's a ton of Native nonfiction out there about everything from history to economics to ecology to recipe books, everything there. And I don't think it's possible to pick up any book by a Native author and not learn something about Native culture. We're now in an era where there's actually been not one, but two Native-led TV shows. So we're just in an amazing era, particularly with the internet, for being able to find these things out there. And so I would encourage people not to wait necessarily to receive information, but to actively seek it out, because I promise you there's someone out there who's probably thinking about or writing about or answering any kind of question you might have. And the only area where it gets a little bit trickier is when you're talking about specific tribes, and that's the time when you can come to that tribe with an open heart, open mind, and some humility to listen to what they have to say.
Thank you for taking the time to learn about what Native people wish outsiders knew about before coming onto Native lands. These interviews are not intended to be a comprehensive list of everything you should know before you begin working with a tribe, but we are hopeful that these voices have expanded your awareness and understanding that if you are working with a tribe, you have work to do before you engage them. If you would like to take some time to reflect on what you have heard, we have points of consideration available for you on the Tribal Information Exchange's professional development webpage.